Hear it. You had the little crazy goat beard too. Wow. It's maybe the theme for tonight. I don't know. You're starting to look like it's coming in very nice. Even that little interim. I really think it has grown a little bit more. It's good, a little bit, yeah. Well, I don't think that could even prepare you for the awesome facial hair on the next comic I'm going to bring up here. So please welcome the mountain man himself, my good friend Pat Rigby.
Awesome. All right, where were the married people? Great. These jokes are gonna go over like hotcakes. That's great. All right, let me put it a different way. Who here has ever cohabitated with another human being? Excellent. You'll be able to relate. You'll be like, Pat is telling jokes about my life. So in any relationship, there's one thing one person does that annoys the other person. And what my wife does that annoys me is she refuses to scrape the plate clean when she's done with dinner. So very passive-aggressively, I said to her one time, you know, everybody else in this house, meaning me, everybody else in this house scrapes their plate clean when they're done with dinner. She was like, okay, two can play that game. Everybody else in this house has a job. Everybody else in this house cooks dinner every night. Everybody else in this house can use the restroom without getting pee everywhere. Everyone else in this house thinks you should shut the fuck up. She had a point. So what I like to do to get even with her is I like to trim my beard and leave all the stubble in the sink. I call it giving it the hairy sink treatment. And this grosses my wife out to no end. Meanwhile, if you were to look in my shower, you would see that my wife sheds hair like a Sasquatch undergoing chemotherapy. Drain alone looks like a chia pet with an afro. But I'm the one with the problem. Believe it or not, I used to have a day job. I couldn't hold it down because I don't know about you people, but when I wake up in the morning, I'm chock full of crazy thoughts. I'll wake up just long enough to look out the window and see if it's raining. And if it's raining, I say to myself, I don't go to work when it's raining. Work must be canceled today, 'cause it's raining. And if it's not raining, I have like a half dozen different excuses ranging from, they don't pay me enough to wear pants, to something completely absurd like, I don't need money to survive. I'm just gonna pay for everything with sleep. In fact, I'm gonna go back to bed and make some more sleep. Then I'm gonna give it to my landlord for rent. He'll be so happy. He'll be like, look at all the sleep I have. You guys seem like a cool crowd. I'm gonna tell you my favorite story about my wife and I. Before we got married in the great state of New Jersey, we were asked to take an STD test, and my wife had a false positive. Now let me explain. There was an initial test that said my wife had a sexually transmitted disease, and a week later we got the results of a conclusive test that said the first test was wrong. But during that week, it's very stressful in my house. We're not really talking to each other. We're not making eye contact. And finally, by Thursday, it all boils to a head, and my wife says to me, Pat, I thought you were gonna take out the garbage. And I was like, yeah, well, I thought you weren't gonna suck anyone else's dick, you syphilitic whore. Would you like me to take out the recyclables as well? That way you can have more time to suck some anonymous cock. Here's the great addition to that story, is when we got the conclusive results back, and it turns out my wife never had an STD, she turned to me and said, Pat, I don't ever wanna talk about this again. And I was like, that is so weird, because I wanna tell this story to complete strangers. I think they'll get a kick out of it. So as y'all can no doubt tell by my accent, I grew up in Tokyo on a military base. I came from a very military-oriented family. Everyone served in the military except for me. To give you an example, my maternal grandfather lost his left ring finger in World War II. So now he walks around looking like he's trying to give everyone the shocker. He's like, hey, Pat, put it there. And you're like, no, Grandpa, no. Great side story about this grandfather. He's bald, and in the 8th grade, I learned that your mother's father dictates whether or not you will go bald. So I got very upset, and I came home to my mom, and I was like, when am I going to start going bald like Granddad? And she's like, oh, honey, your grandfather's not bald. I was like, he's not bald. She was like, no, he was in a horrible car crash. He was thrown through the windshield, and he was scalped. I was like, thank friggin' God. I'm short and fat. We don't need to add bald into the mix. Awesome. So it's getting cold outside, which is great, because now all of the bugs are invading my house again. Does this happen to anyone else besides me? Here's the situation. I hear what sounds like fingers drifting against the mini blinds, and I'm thinking home invasion. Some guy's gonna break into my house, cut my throat, and while I'm bleeding to death, he's gonna rape my wife. So I'm like, let's get the show on the road. I flip on the lights, and it's worse than I thought. Because coming right at my head is a flying cockroach. Now, in moments of extreme duress like this, you find out what kind of person you are. And I found out I'm a giant pussy. Because that cockroach is coming right at me, and I grab my wife, and I use her as a human shield. Thankfully, the bug missed us, but I'm left having to justify my actions. My wife was like, what was that? I was like, I was trying to distract the bug. She was like, with what, my face? Yes. Here's the great addition to that story. Like a few weeks later, some guy cut me off in traffic, and I leaned over to my wife and I said, if I ever caught up to that guy, I would totally kick his ass. And my wife said to me, but what if he had a bug? And he threw it in your face. Well, then he would win that fight, then wouldn't he? Guy's got superpowers. He can control insects. Tell me this has ever happened to you. Never mind that joke. This is the other one we're going to go with. Oh, crap. All right, I'll do it this one. My wife said something to me really, really bizarre the other day. She said to me, Pat, do you ever think of me when you masturbate? And thinking quickly, I said, baby, I think about you every time I masturbate. I think, oh my God, I hope she doesn't come in here. At least till I'm done. I could use a towel then. My name is Pat Rigby. You've been very nice to me. Thank you.
Pat Rigby. Your next performer, a very funny guy. He's been on Comedy Central, and he even guest starred on an episode of Friends. Please welcome Mark Unger.
Joe, let him hear you. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be 44 years old in 2 days. Happy birthday, thank you. You must not be from here, are you? Because in New York, you'd be like, good, kill yourself. 44 years old, man. I passed a kidney stone recently. Anybody ever passed a kidney stone? Yeah. Fucking hurts. If I had a choice between ever passing another kidney stone or having my balls caught in a belt sander, I would sign up for Woodworking 101 that day, all right? Let me tell you something. I felt this out of nowhere. I'm sitting there. All of a sudden, I felt this pain. I thought the alien thing was coming out of me, right? So I ran to the emergency room, okay? This is New York City on a Saturday night. The emergency